What's up, YouTube? Ryan Panny here. It's time for a review of the new Judas Priest record, Firepower, out this past Friday, March 9th. What a fucking release day this past Friday was. Jesus Christ. You had Priest, Between the Buried and Me, Ministry, that Suicidal Tendencies EP, Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge dropped a solo record. There was the physical copy of the new Pestilence record. I mean, there's 3 Days Grace, if you care. And that's just like rock and metal. We're not even talking about A-list rappers like Lil Yachty and Logic and a huge dance artist like Matoma. I mean, I have so many options here to choose from. It's making my fucking head spin. But I figure, what better place to start than the 18th record from literally one of the 3 most important metal bands of all time, Judas Priest. So it's been almost 4 years since we heard from Priest in the form of a studio record. This new one, Firepower, is following up 2014's Redeemer of Souls, which I think a lot of fans saw as a return to form or a back to basics record, if you will, following 2008's sprawling conceptual work Nostradamus, which, look, I gotta be honest, it's not nearly as bad as everyone made it out to be. It's not my favorite Priest record either, but I gotta say, like 40 years into your career, it's admirable to do something that ambitious, and I'm glad they tried that out. But I digress. So Redeemer of Souls worked for a lot of Judas Priest fans because it didn't try to do too much. Like, it was, like I said, kind of a back to basics record. And Firepower, based on the pre-album singles at least, seemed like it was gonna have a similar mission statement. Just give the fans some of that classic new wave of British heavy metal riffing, some shredding solos, of course, Rob Halford's signature powerhouse vocals, and, you know, pre-album singles like the title track and Lightning Strikes definitely check those boxes. But what actually made me really start to look forward to this album was the involvement of one of the true masters of metal production, Andy Sneap, who was brought in to co-produce this record with Judas Priest's producer from the 80s, Tom Allom, who, look, like, he's a fucking legend in his own right. The guy produced British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance. I'm not trying to undermine him by any means, but here's the thing about Andy Sneap. Not only did he help make records like Nevermore's The Godless Endeavor, for example, sound amazing, but specifically, look at what he did with the band Accept and their 2010 comeback record, Blood of the Nations. He took a classic heavy metal band, made them sound completely modern, yet still feel reminiscent of their heyday and still retain that energy and that vigor that made it feel like it was 1988 again. I fucking love that Accept record, and I immediately thought of it when Sneap's involvement was announced, because it's just his work with a classic band like that. You think he's gonna bring it to the fold with Priest as well. And sure enough, I had very good reason to feel the way I did, because listen to the sound of this record. The production on this record is absolutely fucking flawless. Everything from the guitar tones to the mix to drummer Scott Travis's thundering kick drum. The performances just leap out of the speakers. To me, this record is even sonically superior to 2005's Angel of Retribution, which is kind of the benchmark for modern Judas Priest. Seriously, this record sounds so huge, it makes me never want to listen to Redeemer of Souls again. Look no further than the murderous trio of opening tracks on here. I mean, the title track, Lightning Strike, Evil Never Dies, that's probably the best opening trio of tracks on a Priest record since Painkiller. And not only does everything sound great, but the performances themselves are airtight. Rob Halford in particular has not lost a step. I mean, the guy's old enough to be eligible for Medicare in the US, but listen to those layered screeching vocals in the chorus of Evil Never Dies, or the way he puts together a more melodic rock chorus in Lightning Strike. I mean, the guy is just second to none, man. And I also got to single out latter album highlights like Spectre and Traitor's Gate as not only quintessential Halford performances, but also just grade A riff fests guitar-wise. And Halford also lets his softer side shine through a bit on the closing ballad, Sea of Red, which definitely would not be what it was without his very emotional and nuanced delivery. So Rob Halford's still awesome, we've established that. Now onto what's actually my favorite part of this record, which is the overwhelming abundance of epic lead guitar breaks. So many of these tracks feature these soaring lead sections that take them from here to here. Or in the case of a track like Rising from Ruins, save a mediocre song. Like, to me, that song is a bit sluggish, but then you get to 3 minutes and 40 seconds in and it's all worth it. If you want to follow along with what I'm talking about here with the epic lead guitar breaks, a lot of them feature these shimmering harmonies or just big melodies in general. Go to Traitor's Gate at the 3 minutes and 55 second mark. Go to Lone Wolf at 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Of course, the title track has just a really great guitar solo at about 1 minute 20 seconds in that kind of kicks it into the next gear. Believe it or not, despite all the other great things going on this record, these are the really special moments on it, for me at least. But while the lead guitar playing marks many of the album's instrumental high points, unfortunately one of Firepower's biggest drawbacks is in the guitar riffs. Not necessarily in them being complete duds, but in a lot of them just being very, very recycled. It's not like these riffs are bad per se, it's just a lot of them feel like they'd be the first thing you'd come up with in the jam room, which, forgive me, a lot of this album is like downtuned. I'm just gonna play the riffs in standard, but like Evil Never Dies, right? That very first riff. You know, it's that simple like pentatonic with the fucking flat 5 in it. The one that bothers me the most is that stupid fucking bro rock thing on Flamethrower. It's like Metallica's Fuel. That's the worst song on the album, by the way. And then another like kind of cliche is this whole thing. From Rising from Ruins, which it also repeats in, I believe, not Spectre, Traitor's Gate. Like, how many fucking metal songs are gonna do that? And then, you know, the verses in Spectre. It's just riffs that we've heard a fucking million times, which, you know, Priest kind of wrote the blueprint for riffs like this, so if anyone's gonna rip themselves off, that's cool. I don't know. Just there's a lot of shit that feels familiar, like even the Firepower riff, which I gotta really transpose this one. I can't figure out where that's from, but it's fucking from somewhere. So that does bug me, the fact that many of these guitar riffs have already been written, some by Priest themselves. And look, at this point in their career, they were gonna recycle some ideas. It's just how it happens. They've been a band for almost 50 years, but it still bothers me. It's still a significant negative on this record. Of course, this record could also have made its point in less than 58 minutes. You know, think back to Screaming for Vengeance. That's fucking less than 40 minutes, 10 tracks. You know, it's unfortunate and kind of ironic that albums started to get longer because people were trying to fill the time available in CDs when CDs were invented, but now no one buys CDs anymore. Yet we're still making hour-long, 4-on-the-floor metal records. Why? You know, just make it more succinct and just make it tighter. And lastly, I should mention one thing about Priest's music that's always easy to criticize is the lyrics. Like, even take classic Priest, like take a song like Metal Meltdown. What is Metal Meltdown about? Please explain it to me. It's funny because the classic Judas Priest versus Iron Maiden debate, the two are incredibly close. Like, it's a joke how hard that debate is to settle. But one thing that Maiden has always annihilated Priest on is the lyrics. The lyrics have always been one of the weaker points of Judas Priest music, and that trend kind of continues on here. Like, listen to No Surrender, that corny motivational shit. I'm also not a fan of Children of the Sun lyrically. I think that's one of the weaker moments. But here's the thing about Firepower. Firepower is such an easy record to enjoy if you don't fucking overanalyze it like I just did. I'm liking it way more than I thought I would. It's a great driving record. Like I said, the sound is impeccable. The performances, particularly from Halford, are on point. If you're like a hardcore Judas Priest fan and you're a fan of their whole catalog, I see zero reason you should be dissatisfied with this record. And the other side of the coin is when, let's face it, an aging metal band like Judas Priest makes a good record like Firepower, it's just good for all of metal in general. It's a celebration of the genre's rich history. It's a chance for younger fans to be exposed to the origins of their favorite metal. Simultaneously, it makes older fans still feel young because their heroes still got it. You know, it's a beautiful thing to see. And before I go, I gotta make sure to shout out the new Saxon record, Thunderbolt, as another great record that kind of accomplishes the same things that Firepower does with a classic band just delivering a great modern record. So definitely don't sleep on that. But yeah, there's a lot to celebrate here with Judas Priest delivering again for album number 18 in their 49th year as a band. It's just wonderful to see. Firepower gets a 7 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like this video and you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so by clicking here. and also checking out some of my other content that I have available. And also please consider subscribing to the Ryan Panny Music email list. The link is in the description, and I will see you guys soon.